direct supervision during my hours. I would go into the studio and do my observation hours of another teacher. For my own training, I never had any direct supervision at all. It wasn't put in there that the director had to be there. Just obviously a teacher had to be there because they would give you access to the studio, but they would be with the client, so they're not really observing you.
Yeah, because I had somebody tell me that they weren't babysitters to watch the students.
Got it. Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Let's see. Can anybody come in to be a guinea pig?
Yes. Anybody, any new, it didn't matter the age, injury, anything like that, they're allowed to come in and be guinea pig for a student. When I was there, yeah.
All right. Are you allowed to?
With the probationary instructor?
There weren't any direct rules at all. Like,
Okay.
I was never given a rule of who I can and can't bring in as a guinea pig.
Yeah, because if somebody had really major injuries or problems, that might be difficult.
Yeah, and it's up to as when you find guinea pigs, you try to choose somebody that's healthy, but let's say not everybody always discloses information.
Yeah.
So you really have to be diligent in doing that. So the training is to be diligent in finding out what their injuries are.
Are you allowed to leave your clients unattended on the equipment?
No, you're not. Usually if I walk away from a client, they're usually off the equipment, maybe doing some type of stretching or breathing sort of things, not actually on the equipment in springs or anything like that.
Okay. Did you have any guidelines on, as a student, mannerisms or guidelines how to treat your clients and come in the studio happy, not cheat them, kind of common sense things?
I think most of the guidelines were common sense. They weren't like bullet point, like you can't do this. It's kind of more like common sense, the way you carry yourself, but we weren't given direct guidelines and rules to follow.
Yeah. She was chewing gum when she came in.
Oh.
Yeah, and then she had a sour, angry look on her face when she came in, and I was like, maybe we should cancel this. I should have listened to my gut and but it didn't happen anyway. So if you were a teacher, how many would you have in a class that would be easy to work with, and you feel like they get the full knowledge?
Got it. I know based by our certification, the max is 6 per equipment, but for me on a personal level, my max is 3, but I prefer actually 2 people or one-on-one is my preference.
Okay.
Yeah, because I feel like you can give them the best supervision to make sure, everybody's doing things right.
Yeah. She had 2 classes going 2 different days, but they would all come in at the same time to observe, so the waiting room was always full. And she had a total of, I think she told me 8 or 9
At once?
students total for the 2 days. So there was one class on a Friday. And
Oh,
one
you're
class
talking about training for the students or training for the clients?
the actual students getting
Oh,
trained.
the
by
actual
another.
students getting trained. Oh, 8 is too much. I thought you meant training actual clients on the equipment. The actual clients on the equipment is 6 months. Sorry, yeah. In terms of training students, when I went through the program, we had 3, and I think max, I would say, in terms of getting all the things, maybe it'd be 4. I think a class of 8 is a little much.
She had 2 classes, like a Friday and a Sunday.
combined
and then
together.
Combined together is 8. So there would be at least 6 of them hanging around doing their hours at one time. And
Oh, that's a lot of people in the studio. I mean, it's taking into account the clients and the teachers.
Yeah.
That's a pretty crowded space.
okay.
In my opinion.
All right, well, we're going to go in and we'll see how you set up the springs for leg circles.
Come closer. I'll explain the equipment. Yeah. Right there. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not in it. Yeah. All right. Okay. So this is the Cadillac. You already know what the Cadillac is. These are the springs that we typically use for leg springs. They are longer. The yellow is the light. the purple is the dark, or the light and heavy springs, okay? Usually I use yellow for warm-ups, and then purple for if we're doing a little more intense movements after they've already been warmed up. The crossbar here is typically where we put it. It's about halfway up the Cadillac itself. We do have hooks at the top that we use, but in terms of leg springs, it's very rare that I ever personally use those up there, especially if they're lying onto the mat itself. Yeah. Okay.
Now I am.
Oh, okay. So here, okay. Here I have Jim. He's set up for leg circles here. As you can see, leg circles. I have him on the yellow spring. It's at the mid bar. The crossbar is in the middle. And usually when I warm them up for their legs, I start with doing, so bend your knees in towards tabletop. Yeah, tabletop, yep. So from here, what I do, a lot of the movements I do for warm-up stay in parallel, which is like the natural position we are. I have him with the knees bent, and that way his hips and his pelvis kind of settles. So from here, I'm just gonna have you just go push it straight out like you're going out towards tabletop, and then back in. Yeah, good, so straight out and in. So for me as an instructor, I usually do, yep, keep going. I usually start with something like this for warm-ups because it helps them settle their spine so they can find their neutral spine and find their breath as well. So this is how I usually start with leg springs, something nice and easy movement. Yep, good, let's go 2 more. Perfect, good. And then last one, keep it straight. Straight legs up towards the ceiling. Yep, and then back down. So be careful how high you go. Make sure you don't go past the hips. That way the back isn't what's pushing it down, but your hamstrings are. So with this movement here, I started with the other one to kind of settle his pelvis down. And from here, he's finding the connection of the back of the legs and also hinging at the hips to make sure that pelvis stays down. He's finding his breath. So that kind of helps him to warm up. Yep, good. One more. Press it down about a 45-degree angle. Externally rotate your frogs. Bend into your shoulders and press it straight back out. So here what I've done is, same thing, his pelvis is able to settle down. And now I brought in those inner thighs and he's getting a little bit more movement, warming up his body. So at this point, his body's slightly warmed up, pelvis is stable, his pelvis is not rocking back and forth. Good. Let's go last 2. Good. And then last one, keep the legs straight. Turn the legs to parallel. Then go for circles. I usually go straight up, out to the side, and around. And I usually end my series, the leg series, with leg circles. So that way that allows them to get a little bit of a stretch. But if I want him to get more work, I'd ask him to go smaller. But in this case, because he did that leg work, I'm asking him to go bigger for the stretch. Good. Last one to reverse. And then reversing, good, and then down and right. Yes. And that's how I usually do my leg series in terms of the movements and warming up their body. Just make sure their pelvis is stable and it won't rock and their abs are engaged and their body's warmed up. Good. Last one, then bend your knees in towards your chest. Okay, so here I have the setup that the instructor had Kim in. We have purple springs at the top in the legs. Purple springs are the heavier of the 2 springs. Also, Jim's hands are down by his side, if you noticed. So I guess, okay, so...
how does that change the dynamic of the hip joint?
Got it. So because it's heavier tension, his tailbone is, you can kind of see it, it's slightly curled up. With his hands down there, especially being cold, his abdominals aren't warmed up to keep that tailbone down. So don't actually move your legs, Jim, but if I were to ask, don't actually move your legs. But if I were to ask him to move his legs, what's going to happen with that heavier tension, because he's not stable in the pelvis, that pelvis will automatically curl up and he will lose that alignment, potentially injuring himself, basically, especially if he's not warmed up in this position.
So would the ball and socket of the joint slip forward when you go down?
It could possibly, yeah, definitely.
And then when you go down and when you're around, would that pull in the groin area?
Yes, it can pull there's a number of muscles it can pull. Yes, if you go down and out, it could pull at that hip joint right there. Yeah, for sure. Because what happens is his abdominal is no longer able to stabilize his pelvis, so that ball and socket's just kind of, it's moved. It hasn't been warmed up, so it's higher potential of it being injuring a muscle, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Do you want to do
No.
No, don't move your feet. No, you're not warmed up enough for it. For sure.
Okay.
You're not warmed. You can bend your knees in towards your chest though.
We're done. Yeah. And